SAGES Stories.
Welcome to today's episode of SAGES Stories, the official podcast of SAGES, the Society of American Gastrointestinal and Endoscopic Surgeons. Please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you can stay up to date with our most recent episode, and enjoy the show.
Welcome to episode 12. Can you believe it? Of SAGES Stories, where we shine the light on some of SAGES' most impactful leaders. I'm your co-host, Dr. Kevin L. Hayek, tuning in from Cleveland, Ohio.
And I am Dr. Shirin Tofai, coming to you from Los Angeles, California.
It is really hard to believe that we're hitting a dozen episodes today. It
Yep.
seems like yesterday when we started this journey together, Sharon.
I know, no doubt. I can't believe I actually survived over a year alongside you, Kevin.
You get an award for that, actually.
I think it's because we're on opposite sides of the country. So, it was survivable so far.
We did one in person. Remember that I did come
That's
for one in
true.
person. So
With Dr. Bursey. That was great. For real though. I think it's lovely that we work together. I love getting to know you. I'm really relishing in this unique position we have, spending time with so many amazing SAGES legends over the past year or so.
And I think we're blessed to be, part of this fantastic society. The past 11 episodes have been great. And there's no doubt that today's guest, Dr. Caitlin Halbert, will truly inspire our listeners. Dr. Halbert is so far the youngest of our guests, so no pressure there. She completed her Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine degree at Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. Following medical school, she went on to complete her general surgery residency training at Christiana Care Health System in Delaware, followed by a bariatric and advanced gastrointestinal minimally invasive surgery fellowship with the Stony Brook Surgical Associates. She is currently a clinical professor of surgery at the Sidney Kimmel Medical College of Thomas Jefferson University and chief of surgical services of Wilmington Hospital, which is part of the Christiana Care Health System. Caitlin, Sharon, and I are excited to hear your story. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys very much. It's my pleasure, and I'm excited to be part of this. It really is amazing.
Well, we are excited to have you. I, for one, have been watching your career blossom. Probably others have as well. You are a superstar. Oh. And I really think SAGES is amazing for providing such an amazing platform to open doors for great young surgeons such as yourself. And of course, the whole purpose and impetus for our SAGES Stories podcast is to shed light on members like yourself. So we really hope to connect with you as our guest and learn your story. So tell us your story and feel free to highlight any important parts as you've kind of gone through your years. Where did you wake up, etc.? Where did you not wake up? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, when you first woke up, where was it?
Where did you wake up?
Well, I guess, I'm representing the East Coast. So I was born in Pennsylvania, grew up in Maryland, but I've called Delaware my home for the last 10 plus years. And, when I travel and tell people where I'm from, I always say Delaware. It's a great little state that no one knows anything about. Most people on the West Coast can't even find it on a map. So whenever I give a SAGES talk, can't find it.
I know where Cleveland is.
Yeah.
It's slightly larger than Cleveland. Delaware.
Slightly larger. Yeah, just by a little bit. And so all my talks have a map included, so you know exactly where Delaware is. So, but I grew up, I have the oldest of three. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom and took, great care of us, a happy home. And I went to a private school for high school, which was so important for me because I was super shy and I was an introvert and didn't really socialize very much. I was just kind of kept within myself. And that high school was so important for me because it really brought me out of my shell. And, I love the sciences. And so I ate up all those classes really early and then ended up spending my senior year in the art room, painting and sculpting and kind of also doing that part that's really important to me.
Cool.
And so when I graduated, or was starting to think about graduation, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I actually thought about being an art major, and my dad said, why don't you be a science major instead and do art as a minor? So that's what I did. And he wanted to have a doctor in the family, and I was really close to my dad. And I said, oh, maybe something like that would be cool. And before I graduated from high school, one of my friends, their dad was an orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Midrick, and he's, I was looking for a summer job, and so he hired me, and I was like, this is when you had paper, right? So I was filing charts away and filing physical x-rays.
Yeah.
And the end of that first summer, he came up to me, and he was also very quiet, introverted like I was. And he said, Caitlin, what do you want to see in the OR this week? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So excited. And so that first summer I was in doing like DeQuervain releases and carpal tunnels with him. And then the next year he took me to see total knees and total hips. And I really just thought, the first time I walked into the OR, I was like, oh, this is like home for me. I just felt so comfortable in there, and like part of this bigger team that was taking care of this human that was so vulnerable. And then I did a summer externship at York Hospital, actually. And I got into the OR, and I saw the inside of a belly, and I was like, oh, this is it. Orthopedic goodbye. I wanted to do general surgery. So all throughout college and medical school, I wanted to be a surgeon. There was nothing else at that point in my life that I wanted to do.
So you were
great story. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were how old then? So you were first year in college then? That was when it kind of all started. This was after you graduated?
Yeah, it was. I started that job when I was 16 years old, I think, 16, 17.
So you were in high school at that time.
Yeah. And it was just
wow.
like so many, my dad's an engineer. So I had like his like need to figure out how things work in the world mindset. And then it was the sciences that I knew I already loved. But then there was this artistic part of it that also spoke to me. And it just combined all those things together. And it was just such a perfect match for me.
And where is this orthopedic surgeon now in your life?
He's still in York, Pennsylvania. I kind of follow his family on Facebook. And I'm due to probably reach out to him and let him know what I'm up to. But he was the reason I did it, for sure. And I owe him so much. And I don't know if he knows exactly how much I owe him, because he really left a indelible mark on my life.
You should share this podcast with them.
Yeah, you should definitely.
Yeah.
You'll get a link. And
Yeah.
So again, you were the oldest of three then? Is that right? So yeah, tell us a little bit about the rest of your family.
Yeah, so my sister is like the exact opposite of me. She's like a free spirit and social and just this amazing extrovert. So she like balances me out really nicely, and we're like, best friends. And so she owns a clothing store. So she keeps me well dressed most of the time, when I got to see her. And then
that's key.
Yeah,
it's
key.
Good.
It's perfect. And then my brother's in finance. And they have amazing, nieces and nephews that I'm Aunt Tater Tot to, so it's because they can't say Caitlin, so it's Tater and then Tater Tot. So I'm Tater Tot for the rest of my life. But yeah, I mean, just wonderful humans that are doing, successful things in their own way. And, but we grew up and kind of felt like we all had to have these careers and really love what we do. And so my parents gave us the opportunity to really search out what we wanted to do in life.
So tell us a little bit about, getting into medical school and what that experience was like. What was your time in medical school like?
It wasn't a straight path. I was first done at Washington and Lee University, and I was so homesick. And I think my parents were homesick too. And after the first semester, I moved closer to home and ended up going to Albright College in Reading, Pennsylvania. And they actually had an early assurance program with Penn State Hershey. And so I was accepted to Penn State Hershey, but deep down, I really wanted to go to Jefferson and be in the city. It didn't hurt that I was a boyfriend in Philadelphia at the time that may have played in the world.
So he listens to the podcast too.
I don't know. It'll maybe keep that to ourselves, but
maybe not. Yeah, maybe not.
But at the, I really wanted to go to Jefferson. So I actually withdrew from the early assurance program. And when I reapplied, I didn't get any interviews for medical school. And yeah, and I was like I was like top of my class. I was an honors thesis. I was president of the, surgical society and all this, like, or pre-med society. And so one of our alumni, we had these like dinners for our new science building, and one of the alumni said, "Why haven't you gotten interviews?" I said, "I don't know. I'm like, my parents aren't doctors. We don't have doctors in the family. I have no idea what's going on." My advisor didn't know. And so he took my application and he made some phone calls because he was on the admissions board for NYU. And it turns out that when I withdrew from Penn State, it got around. And so it kept me out of other interviews. And so, yeah. And this apparently was the practice back in the day, and I don't think it is anymore, but it was pretty upsetting. And so I ended up taking a year off, and I did my post-bac. I started at PCOM, actually. That's how I got to PCOM. And I started a certificate in biomedical sciences, and I bartended at the same time. So it was like a nice life lesson, and it was fun. And I did that for a year. And then I matriculated into PCOM's medical school. And it was a great opportunity because in my second, third year, I finished my master's thesis, and I graduated with my master's then during my third year of medical school.
Wow,
so I get 2-for-1 deal,
It's funny, as I think someone had recommended that I become a bartender during medical school, because they said it's like a great way to just talk to people and be in front of people. So I did not take them up on it, but it's good to finally meet someone to maybe be able to validate that comment.
Absolutely. So I think it's probably why I'm so comfortable talking to patients. You learn how to read a room and read your audience, and and then learning how to blow fire on the side. Like, it was kind of cool
Note to our younger audiences maybe listening, maybe start with bartending and with complex GI surgery. I mean, it's definitely a pathway.
But this is also a great story because, first of all, I'm glad you found someone who can kind of redirect you back into the system, because it's so stressful to apply to medical school. It's even more difficult now to get in than when it was when you got in and when I got in, for sure. And part of what I do is I help mentor people to get into medical school. And man, the advice they're getting is so wrong, and their counselors are like completely incorrect. And do you do that now, given your experience? Do you like reach out to help guide others?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important. I have residents and I teach, certainly my residents, I love them, for sure. But I have a lot of high school and college students now that will shadow with me, that I keep in touch with, that I mentor over time. And it's so much fun to see them go through the process. And I think it's really important because a lot of them don't have, like I didn't have, doctors in the family. We didn't know the steps. And have somebody there kind of nudging you along is just so important. And it's been really rewarding to see it full circle and watch those students grow into doctors. It's amazing.
Yeah, so true. And so glad that they have you, because that experience is so unique and it's stressful.
Yeah.
And you need that perspective sometimes to be able to help others. That's really great that you do have that exposure.
So how many years after then, was you said it was kind of not a straight path. So when was it that you went and bartended, and then the following year you got in, or okay.
Following year, So I guess
And
it
then,
wasn't that windy, but
no, it's
to
not
me,
that
it felt like
windy.
the world was ending,
Yeah,
so.
sure. And it's a long year, I'm sure. It's definitely a long year.
That's
So
gonna be a trend, though. Let me just ask you this. Have you heard about this gap year issue?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's doing a gap year.
Everyone
for no
does
purpose.
it. Now it's accepted. Now it's preferred for you to get life experience before you go to medical school.
Yeah.
So funny story. Gap year did not exist when I was there, but I did a gap year in between my second and third years of college, and everybody in my hometown thought I had dropped out of college. Like, oh, we heard you dropped out of college. What's going on? This is the biggest mistake of your life. And then I think 2 years later, everyone started saying, I'm doing a gap year. And I said, well,
Yeah.
what's a gap year? What is it? What
Yeah.
is that? But yeah, absolutely. I think it's a chance to really kind of, get your feet under you and figure out what you want to do. So,
Yeah. It's
so
great.
when you went back so when you got in, you initially had this kind of feeling of doing surgery, but did it ever waver, or when you were going through medical school, was it pretty clear, I definitely want to go into surgery? Was that kind of a
Yeah,
situation, or?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, my first rotation as a third year was OBGYN, and I loved it. And for like a couple weeks, I was like, yes, I'm doing this. And then I realized, oh, it's only because they're letting me operate during this. They're letting me like close the uterus and do that suturing. Like, it's amazing to see a baby born. Yeah, like the first time. And then I was like, all right, I'm done with this. So yeah, I wavered for maybe a week or two and then went right back to surgery.
Yeah, and then when you went to residency, same, right? I just
Yeah.
assumed that it was just heaven, right?
Oh, it was absolute heaven. I rotated at Christiana when I was a student and loved the place. It's like this hidden gem where, and not a lot of people know about it. I think people in the East Coast, I think, are knowing more about it, but the residency program at Christiana, you just operate your tail off. And you come out so confident as a surgeon from a technical standpoint and from a knowledge standpoint. But you're given all this autonomy from day one. And so I knew I wanted to go to Christiana. I ranked at 1, I got in. And actually one of my buddies, Dr. Santoro, was in there with me. We were students together and now we're colleagues there. And the coolest thing. I mean, I loved the residency, at Christiana. The 5 years just like flew by. I mean, it was hard work, don't get me wrong, but I just loved being in the operating room. The first time an attending walked out of the room and left me there to close port sites, I was like, done. Yeah.
I feel like our residents are much happier now. Do you feel like they're able to handle the stresses that you're able to handle?
Yeah, I think we've just learned so much. The residents, like, we give them wellness days. One day a month, they get to go to the dentist and get their oil changed, or just sit at home or catch up on reading. Just those little things would have been huge for me back in the day. And I think just those little things. I mean, we have our team of our behavioral health team and our wellness team come and visit the residents, hear them out, and decisions that get made in the program are made because of things that they asked for or suggested. They really have a strong say in what happens in that residency program. And overall, I think that they have been happier. I also think the expectations for them have changed, both for them and by them. And so we've kind of grown out and away from the, you wake up there, you leave there, go home, go sleep. You're not constantly at the hospital. There is a time where you get to go home and go to sleep or see your loved ones, and there's a little bit more flexibility in there. And I think that overall makes a better resident.
Sorry, yeah. So what were some of your favorite moments during your residency training?
So I think one of my favorite, so I have like my favorite procedures that I did as a resident, but I think one of the biggest things was getting into the lab rooms. So I had, great mentors that showed me not only how to do bariatric surgery, for example, or foregut surgery, but they let me do those procedures. And that was pretty amazing. The first time I did a skin to skin bypass as a chief resident was a big day for me. I was really excited about it, and it really was special. And it really solidified where I wanted to go with my career. I loved like the first day as trauma chief and I'm in somebody's chest digging out a shotgun shell, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. I mean, it's fun.
Not for a living. Yeah.
No, I don't want to do it I don't want to do it full time. And I like give people that do that so much credit, because
no offense to our trauma listeners.
No
there
offense.
aren't many of them. I know that, but
each his own. But it was and it was fun, but I just couldn't imagine doing that all day day and night, and I liked the finesse of laparoscopic surgery, and then how that rolled into robotic surgery for me. And so it was a big, I just loved it. I absolutely loved it.
And when did you choose that's going to be your kind of career path? What mine was
yeah.
kind of late.
I think mine was too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think for a while I was like, I feel really confident as a general surgeon, and I'm just going to go out into practice and do my thing. And then I read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, and it's a really simple book, and I think if you read it at certain times in your life, you'll kind of view it differently. But at that point, I was like, I really just want to completely lean into the things I want to do, and so I decided to do fellowship in minimally invasive surgery because I loved foregut and I liked bariatric, but I didn't really think I wanted to be a bariatric surgeon. I think as a resident, we were really skewed and seeing like some of the problem people come back into the hospital and you're like, oh, is this all this is? It wasn't until I went into fellowship that I actually fell in love with bariatrics.
And was there someone in particular that kind of mentored you through this process and eventually making a career out of it?
Yeah, so when I was probably in my 4th year of SAGES, in residency, I went to SAGES for the first time. One of my attendings took me, and it was, the first time I got to see what all that was, and I was pretty struck by it. And it was actually at the Meet the Leadership meeting on that Friday that, we were like going to be doing interviews soon, because it was when it timed so well that your fellowship interviews were right after SAGES. And so I went to meet the leadership. So I wanted to meet all these program directors. And so I walked into that room and I said, I'm going to meet everybody in this room and tell them why Caitlin Halbert needs to go to their program. And it's through that I met Steve Eubanks, a former SAGES president. And I didn't know, I didn't know everyone in that room. And then they tell me their name, like, oh yeah, I read your book. Oh yeah, I read your paper. Like it's like, I was like, fangirling hard, and then he said, hey, I want you to meet this woman. You guys would get along really well. And I said, oh, okay. Aurora Pryor. And so her and I hit it off. And, I then applied to her fellowship. And it was the first time I really saw a female mentor for me, just a role model for me, somebody who I could look up to and say, this is the kind of life that I want to live. I mean, I grew up with women who had jobs, but not careers. And in residency, I had a lot of great surgeons that I trained under, but not like that strong, powerful woman leader that I could really see myself in. And so she was just like, it was that changed my direction again. And so I applied to her fellowship and of course got it. And I couldn't understand it, to be honest, because I just thought, like, here I am, I'm an osteopathic physician, which sometimes can be really hard. And I'm a female and I'm from this community practice program at Christiana. And but she saw something in me and took a chance on me. So it was and so she really ushered me through the whole MIS and bariatrics and foregut, and she's the reason I really fell in love with the profession.
That's great. She was obviously one of our early SAGES Stories guests for obvious reasons. And was that just incidentally, we like to kind of, another fun thing we like to do is learn about our guests' introduction to SAGES. So was that your first SAGES, or did you go before then, or when did you get introduced to SAGES?
That was the very first time, actually. Wow. It was down in Baltimore. Yeah, it was the first, and I remember that meeting. Yeah, that was a great meeting. It was so collegial, and it was, and not only was it going to the lectures, but I could see everyone talking afterwards, and everyone knew everybody, and I was like, oh, this group, they're all talking about, they're just nerding out together, and I just thought it was awesome. And then, of course, the Friday gala, I was like, what is this? I see Scott Melvin be, led out by circus acts onto stage. I was like, what the hell is this? Like this, I don't know what this is, but I love it and I want to be part of it. So yeah.
Okay, so tell me your first job then.
So my first job out of fellowship was in private practice. And I actually went back to the Christiana Care area, so back here in Delaware. And so I was working at a Christiana Care along with some other facilities. And I had senior partners who knew me, trusted me, and really helped me become busy very fast. And that gave me the opportunity to feel supported while I really learned how to do bariatric surgery, how to do foregut surgery like my way. It was no longer Dr. Pryor's bypass. It was now Dr. Halbert's bypass, and had to take all the lessons that have been learned and put it into practice. And so I did 2 years in private practice and did a lot of cases and started to feel really comfortable. But at the end of that, it was, a matter of what was it going to do next? Because I was starting to feel really comfortable and I was working, really hard, but I had a lot of aspirations that I couldn't see myself fulfilling in private practice.
So that led you to, and so it seems like in 2017, you moved back over to Christiana Care Health System. So how was that transition? So this was where you trained then, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of moved
Yeah.
back. So
They
tell us
knew me.
about that transition. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they knew me really well, and I wanted to start there, out of fellowship, but they weren't ready to have a practice for bariatrics, And I actually had reached out to our CEO, who was a female physician, and congratulated her on her new role. And I said, hey, I really want to come back. She's like, we're not ready yet. We're not ready for you, but go with the private practice group for a little bit. And so when I knew I was leaving private practice, I interviewed all over. And I remember sitting down with the CMO at Christiana. He's an anesthesiologist, and I worked with him when I was a resident. And he sat there and he said, Caitlin, tell me your dream job and we'll build it for you here. And that's what they did. And
Wow.
yeah.
Who does that? That's amazing.
I don't know. And I was like, thank you.
Delaware, man. I'm moving to Delaware.
Me too. There's not enough room for us.
Secret.
There's not enough room. Yeah, there's not enough room.
But so I became their first bariatric surgeon that they hired at Christiana. And it was scary. I was there for almost a year by myself, going through it. And then now, I mean, this October, I'm about to bring on our 5th bariatric surgeon.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've grown quite a bit in a very short period of time, and, fully supported by our organization, and they really did. I mean, I'm, obviously now the medical director of our program, and moved up to run the Department of Surgery at our campus. And, the things that Christiana has afforded me have exceeded my expectations, really.
That's pretty amazing. One of the aspects that you've really promoted over the years is the concept of excellence in minimally invasive surgery in the community setting. And you're really a great example of that. In fact, Kevin and I were both physically there when you won the first ever SAGES Excellence in Community Surgery Award in 2022.
Congratulations.
That was really fantastic. I loved seeing that. That was so great. And I think for our listeners, some of whom are not medical, can you maybe spend some time explaining like what is a community surgeon? There's so many different avenues to seek as after your surgical residency. Maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about community surgery and how that's different than maybe what Kevin's doing. Yeah.
And it's not that different. I mean, that's the beauty of it. I think that nowadays, especially, the lines have blurred so much. As this university buys up this community hospital, and this community hospital enlarges and becomes this huge conglomerate, right? So I think there's just such a blurring that happens, but we think about community practice surgeons as really pillars of their community. They are not only the surgeons, but they're really an integral part. And, from a philanthropic standpoint, from an education standpoint, from all these different perspectives, you really become embedded in the community. But, and then if you really want to take it down, it's the rural surgeons, it's the private practice surgeons, it's the hospital employed surgeons, urban surgeons. I mean, it's the practice types are so varied, but we're not tenured, right? We're not academic surgeons. Not necessarily as focused on research. Not that we don't do it. I mean, I do it, but my promotion is not based on that. My promotion is based on the work I do as a leader, the quality of care I provide my patients, the programmatic developments that I work through with bariatrics and otherwise, those are the things that allow for promotion. So it's a different promotion cycle for sure. And I don't answer to a dean. There's no dean above me, but there is a CEO and president. So there's still somebody I got to answer to. So those are kind of the main differences. And I think it needed to be defined, and we wrote a white paper. You're really highlighting community practice surgeons because I think there were so many misconceptions out there on what a community practice surgeon. We weren't the OSH, we're not the outside hospital.
Yeah, OSH. I remember you talking about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so much more. Yeah.
All the complications occur.
I'll try to see if we can get a link to that white paper, at least the abstract, if on our podcast. I did peruse that actually when that came out. So, and I think you're right. I think the lines have blurred. My father is a solo private practice community surgeon, and I agree with so much of how you define it, and yet I serve the community of people that I go into, and so does Sharon. But I mean, tell us, but there is a difference, and I think there's probably a lot of people out there who some may be trying to decide what type of career they want, and so I think it's helpful for them maybe to hear about your life as a community surgeon. What's it like, and give us kind of a taste of a day in the life of Dr. Caitlin Halbert.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, the majority of graduates go into community practice. So a lot of folks are choosing to do that, but it's hard because in fellowship, you are mostly at an academic center and you're only seeing that type of practice. And so knowing what's out there and what's possible is so important so that you don't find yourself in a place where you don't want to be. And I think it's really important to talk to a lot of folks with these different backgrounds. For me, being at Christiana, so first of all, when I started at Christiana as a resident, I was like, I'm going to be the mayor of Christiana. And what that meant to me was like, I wanted to walk the halls and be like, hey, how's your son? Hey, how's it going?
Oh,
I
I
get the
see.
knee replaced. Like, what's going on? You okay?
Yeah.
And, I just wanted to know like everyone that worked at Christiana. And I remember rounding when I first came back from fellowship up on the surgical floors. I had to give myself an hour and a half because I would just hang out with everybody, with all the nurses, that I'd known for years. And so
this is the quiet, reclusive Caitlin.
Yeah, exactly. The introverted bartender.
Tell you, bartending, that's what I did. And so so that was kind of my idea of kind of my community within the hospital. But as I've gotten more and more involved as an attending and as a program director, I really focus on how to serve my community better. And I'll give you an example. I realized we put together this dashboard where we could look at a little bit better, closer look at the demographics of our bariatric patients. And one of the things I realized is that while Wilmington, Delaware, which is where I'm based out of, has a very large Hispanic community, we weren't seeing them in our clinic. And the truth be told, it was because we weren't doing the right things to support them and to make them feel comfortable. Any Spanish speaking, patient really could not get through the system without a tremendous amount of support. And so over the last year, and it's not more than just translating, we've been certainly translating stuff, but creating better access so that they don't have to bring their loved one there that speaks English to get them through the system, that they can independently do it and feel confident from the minute they enter into our office to the time that they go to sleep for their surgery, for all their post-operative care. We wanted to create an overhaul of the program to support our entire community. And so it's that kind of work that I think is really, I think that is stuff that is so meaningful for me. And that's the stuff that's pulled me out of the OR. I love operating, but a lot of course, all this leadership stuff takes me out of the OR, but this is so rewarding. And to have patients that go through the system now and feel completely comfortable, and you take that anxiety away, that's the work that I think community surgeons can do. It's nothing we ever trained for by any means, but
Yeah.
it's just a little bit different. And I'm not saying that academic surgeons don't think about those things too, but the focus is always on how to best treat and best care for our community that we physically live in.
So I love the passion you bring to community surgery. It's very unique because most surgical societies are based on university-based, quote, academic surgeons that are employed, and they have like the triple threat going, research, education, and clinical excellence. And community surgeons are not given leadership roles, et cetera. And correct me if I'm wrong, but up until recently, we've had no presence or voice in most societies. SAGES then started with, I believe it was a community practice kind of like task force, and then like worked its way up to being a committee.
Yeah.
And I always remember you being the head of it. Is that true? Were you the instigator? Or was there someone I missed?
Yeah, now I a couple years ago, I guess it was 5 years ago now, it was again at a Meet the Leadership meeting. I'd come off some great meetings. It was coming out of membership, actually, my work on the membership committee. And I went up to Dan Jones and I said, hey, I didn't say, hey, hello, Dr.
Hello,
Jones.
sir.
Hello, sir. I have
Yes.
something important to talk to you about. And I said,
now you said, hey, and that's okay. It's okay. Because Dan Jones would have been like, yeah, hey,
he would
what's
have been
up?
cool about it, right?
Yeah,
So, but I said, hey, I really think that we need to have a group of community practice surgeons because I feel like, blah, 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 we're unrepresented, and we really have a large voice and something to say and something to give to SAGES. And I think that it would be so important to put something together. And so Sally Matthews, executive director of SAGES, is standing right beside him, and he pulls her over and he says, Sally, we need to make a community practice task force. He's like, and he looked at me, who's going to be in charge of this task force? And I was like, I don't know. Said,
no idea,
you
Dan.
are.
Yeah.
He said, you're in charge
I
of
could totally see this conversation happening, and it's just fascinating, and I think it's such a key lesson to people who are listening and our SAGES members. It's like, you want something, go talk to leadership and say, hey, we want this, and you're you take it, and you can take it to the next level. And there's so many examples of that, but this is an amazing example. I think it's really, really great.
Yeah, I believe in doing things that make you feel slightly uncomfortable, because it's in that place where you're just getting uncomfortable. Like, should I do this? I shouldn't do this. This is silly. They may say no, but I live for those moments because I think that's how you grow. I think that's how you get to be more courageous and more confident and stronger. And so I love moments like that. And I was so thankful that Dan Jones did not say no. So
I mean, it's great. You've been a great representative. You've run the committees fantastically. A paper came out of it, which is amazing.
yeah.
You've got the award. It's a very busy committee. And what's the statistic for the percentage of membership being actually community surgeons?
Over 2/3.
Over 2/3.
SAGES
So that's, and SAGES membership, I think, is in the 8,000 range. So yeah, so clearly we're going to have many community-based surgeons listening, some of whom you have in your committee, and from your work,
speakers list. Yeah,
there's a speakers list.
Great.
From your work, what's kind of the next big thing coming out of community-based surgery in your committee? What are some highlights that you would say is happening and coming out in the next next year or so?
Well, definitely the speaker catalog that you mentioned is super great. I'm excited for this. This is not just for community practice surgeons. It's for all of membership to be a part of, so that it gives you really a venue to highlight your ability to speak, the topics that you love speaking on, and that allows then anyone who's putting together a session to find a variety of speakers to put on the panel. Maybe you want to have someone local to do your grand rounds that's from SAGES, and this will be a way to do that. So highly encourage anyone anyone interested in speaking at any venue to sign up for that. But my co-chair, Rob Catania, is working on this amazing project right now that I'm just super excited. He what we realize is that we do a great job as SAGES of creating like guidelines and, white papers and all these amazing educational materials. But how do we get that to the masses? And so he's working on these collaborative grand rounds. And his first topic is foregut. And so he's creating really a grand rounds presentation, bringing in all of the information from guidelines, from, everything. And we have people from all over SAGES that are helping and contributing. And so they divide up on different topics, and you can decide which, slides you pull from that. But these slide decks will be available to membership so that they can go into their communities and teach people about what is foregut surgery, what is reflux, what is a toupee, fundoplication, what is a lynx, what is all these things, right? And it puts them into a vetted and most current, presentation of just excellent material that can then be shared. Because it's really hard, is your private practice, your community practice, you are pulled in all these directions, and you want to do a great presentation and teach your GI colleagues, about the surgeries that you do. Well, now SAGES is going to create that so that you have it to use.
Yeah, I think that's really great. I actually, in doing the sessions for next year, did already go to that kind of speakers catalog. Very, very helpful. Need a lot more surgeons to sign up for it.
Yeah.
Put in what you want to talk about.
We'll try to put a link. Yeah, we'll put a link to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure we try to put a link in the podcast for people to potentially be able to go and sign up. I think that's a great initiative.
Yeah, it's a great resource. Yeah. Kevin, just put in, I'd like to talk about Cleveland.
Yes. If anything Cleveland, if you need an update on Cleveland and Delaware, and you just need a grand round speaker to talk about Cleveland,
yeah,
Christiana
I'm sure.
Care. Yeah, just sign it up. I'll definitely do it.
There'll be an audience for that.
Definitely.
Very good. So we get to our fan favorite segment. It is called the We Are the SAGES segment.
We are the SAGES. Sing it, everybody. We are the ones who make you bright our days, so let's start treating. Have you had a good time tonight? There's a choice we make. We got a lot more coming. We are dancing, singing. Lives. It's true. Let's give a big hand for SAGES Fari. Give him a big hand.
And for this one, we basically would love to hear any stories about your favorite SAGES meeting moments.
It's good. I had to dig deep for this one. No, I didn't have to dig deep. I had to make sure it was appropriate. But
inappropriate.
Inappropriate is good. No,
we have, you may not be the most inappropriate.
Yeah, there's definitely been some inappropriate ones. So, again, podcast is clean. We know that Apple is, we're trending in Fiji and Mongolia, and we just want to make sure that we keep that audience. So
that was good. Yeah, no, I think it was so my 5th year residency, I went back to SAGES. I think it was in Utah that year. And that was
such a great one. You were probably skiing. That's the fun aspect of it. Yeah.
And so, Aurora Pryor knew that I was coming to Stony Brook, the next year. So I was already tagged as her fellow coming in, and she said, I need you to be on stage. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, I think I was there for this. Let's hear this.
Yeah. And I had no idea what I was doing or what I was getting myself into. But that was the year I got up on stage with the SAGES ladies for the first time.
Yes.
And
that's the beginning.
When I was young, I was going to be Gwen Stefani, I was going to be a rock star, and I was going to marry a rock star, and I was going to do all those things. Turns out I can't sing, but the dream still lives inside. So it was awesome. And I got to actually kind of run and organize the SAGES ladies for the next several years. And it was super fun to have all these powerhouse women on my email chain. I mean, they were just like, how did I even have contact with these people? And, choreograph dances, in the mix of lectures at SAGES.
I would say
yeah, so
choreograph is
highlight.
the loose, I would use that term very loosely.
Term we prefer to use, but yeah.
We were
It's a
no
lot of
Japanese dancers.
No,
Yeah,
no.
that would be inappropriate. Yes.
Yeah, that's
That would cross the line. But they're always fan favorites, and the choreography is really what I go to see
yeah.
when
Oh,
I'm at those.
absolutely.
It's really the choreography.
Well, it's
Yeah.
those lyrics. Who writes the lyrics, Caitlin? It's
So
fantastic.
in most of the time it's prior doing
Yeah,
it.
I remember
Yeah.
she said that in the in our podcast with her that
Yeah,
she was
no,
the.
she's
So you've corroborated that statement
Mm.
now with this. So now we
No,
can
she's
go
telling the
back
truth.
and
Yeah. No,
yeah.
she's like so good at it. Like we'll pick a song collectively, and I'm the one doing like the PowerPoint and like the presentation stuff, and I'm like, hey, can you get me these lyrics? Like next day she gets them. I don't know how she does it, and they're so good.
Awesome. It's a
So, yeah,
talent.
That is a talent.
Mhm.
Well, before we let you go, some quick ones here. What are some of your interests outside the OR? We did hear about your artistic side, but what about now? What are some things you like to do outside of the OR?
Yeah, so I run, and I kind of make running an excuse to travel. So we'll do like half marathons all over the place, and so it kind of offsets the eating that we do on vacation too a little bit.
Yeah.
It justifies it. Yeah, so we travel and run, and yeah, I'm child free. I decided not to have kids, so I live up that child free lifestyle pretty well.
It's a
But
damn good lifestyle.
Yeah, I have to say, yeah, it's
Yeah. Don't rub it in, ladies.
Yeah,
Don't
I'm
rub
sorry.
it in.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Don't
don't
be
rub it
jealous,
in.
Kevin.
Yeah, slightly. Love you, kids. Love you so
Yeah,
much.
I don't regret it, but they're great. Love them.
you. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, but no, and we have a house down in Cape May, New Jersey, and my two dogs here that I have given a nice little shout out there in the middle, and yeah, I mean just
Fur babies are still part of the family. I mean,
Yeah.
they're probably maybe I won't say it, but we got a couple here, and I certainly love them with a high magnitude of love that comes from.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
can see your dogs, Caitlin. They're beautiful.
Yeah,
They are
they're now
beautiful.
sleeping, even though they were fighting earlier. They're sleeping now, so they're
Beautiful dogs. What kind are they?
one's an Australian Shepherd. The other one we're not quite sure of that one right there. Yeah, I have no idea what she is. Maybe an Aussie Lab mix. I don't know.
I have a coupon for DNA testing from testing ours. So if you want, I can forward it to you, and you can. You should definitely do it. Oh, it is. You absolutely. It's probably one of the most enjoyable things to get back in the mail is finding out what is your dog.
I was waiting for one night where it would get a little too maybe one extra drink or something, and I'd buy myself that thing because I couldn't justify it otherwise.
So my next coupon's coming your way. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, nice. Yeah.
And one more fun question. If you weren't a surgeon, what would you be?
If I weren't a surgeon, oh, that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. That's not the answer, I promise. But if sky's the limit, I could do anything in the world, I'd be a rock star.
Gwen Stefani.
Gwen Stefani. Hands down, that's what I would do.
That's what you would do.
One.
That's
the
a good
best
one.
answer we've ever had.
I love going to concerts. I love music. I
Yeah,
absolutely love music.
you have like a music festival coming up here, right? Or we take you away from.
Yeah, no, it's a 4-day Delaware festival.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, we're gonna be there. We won't be camping, but we have a hotel. But we'll be there, and probably starting to be one of the oldest people there. But that's okay. I mean, whatever.
Age is just a construct. It's not actually an absolute thing. Well, thank you for. I know we pushed up your time to be with us, so we're appreciative of that. And this has been a super fun episode. It will be not only helpful to many of our listeners, but also inspiring. It will be enjoyable. I think particularly our majorities community-based surgeon cohort of SAGES hopefully will tune in and certainly feel that you're representing them, and as well as our younger surgeons and trainees who may be considering going in that pathway as well. And I would say to any of them, if you run into Caitlin at a SAGES meeting, you should feel comfortable to go up to her and tell her you have a great idea. And she's going to say, who's in charge of that? You are. You're in charge of that because you just came up to me. So, but thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Yeah, thank you
And
guys.
congratulations on everything. Yeah,
Oh,
just really fantastic.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that wraps up today's episode of SAGES Stories. You can view the show notes for any links to sites we referenced today. Visit sages.org for membership information and for the most recent news from our society. Follow us on Twitter at @sages_updates. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. See you again next time, and remember, you can't spell minimally invasive surgery without SAGES.